This page is the cover of N64 Pro, back in the day when it proudly declared itself the official. You've got little Tommy Pickles from Rugrats, all kitted out for a treasure hunt. Bless his cotton socks. Clearly aiming for the younger audience with that one, eh? They were even adding a new Game Boy Color section apparently. But don't let the cartoon fool you, they're promising a load of played to death goodness inside. We're talking tested classics like Perfect Striker 2, the platforming challenge Tonic Trouble, the Beat MUP fun of Fighting Force, some footy with Michael Owen's WLS 2000, a bit of grapple action with WWF Attitude, look, there's The Rock, and some gridiron with Madden 2000. Looks like they've got a decent mix covered for everyone. And Mewtwo, plus previews for the spooky Shadow Man and the excellent RC Racer Revolt are teased, both cracking games in their own right. And if that wasn't enough, there were competitions, winning a DVD player, or some awesome roadsters, standard magazine stuff, always trying to lure you in with freebies and promises of great content. This page is all about getting ahead in your games, isn't it? Right at the top, you've got the UK's biggest and best value service for cheats and tips across N64, PSX, Dreamcast, PC, and Game Boy. They've even got a character called the Cheat Master, pointing you in the right direction, bless 'em. Looks like they cover a fair few games, listing off classics and lesser-known titles from the era. Down the page we get introduced to the team behind the magazine. They're all imagining finding a treasure chest, which ties nicely into that big cartoon character from the cover. Looks like Tommy Pickles from Rugrats again, dressed up as an adventurer, searching for treasure. Very on brand. The team bios are quite amusing, like the chap who failed to steal Perfect Dark from ECTS, or the one who just wants tons of cash so he doesn't have to work again. Relatable, eh? There's also the 8 commandments of N64 Pro, promising honest reviews, staying up to date, finding every cheat, talking to readers, and giving you a say. Bold claims. And naturally they're pushing their services hard with facts and competition hotlines for instant cheats, or a chance to win prizes, plus a dedicated hotline for a GoldenEye walkthrough. A proper classic, that one. All designed to get you dialing those premium rate numbers. This page looks like the big content spread, giving you a proper breakdown of what's inside N64 Pro this month. Right off the bat they're teasing you with a chance to win a DVD player and some cheat cartridges. Proper handy stuff that. You've also got big mentions for freebies, like a blagger's guide to Zelda 64, which they claim everyone's been begging for, and some free posters. Plus, they're pushing the Enter the Pro Zone, which sounds like the place for tips, codes and cheats, the Pro Arena, Swap Shop, and joining the crew. Then there's the chunky 18 reviews. They're covering a good mix here, from J-League and the usual sports suspects like Madden and Michael Owen's Soccer, to Shadow Man, Fighting Force, Revolt, Tonic Trouble, and the new Tetris. And look, the cover story is Rugrats. They've even got a funny blurb about the reviewer having to wear an adult nappy because he's scared of the dark after an accident. Sounds like Paul. Down below they've got the blueprint section highlighting roadsters, which they call Top Notch, and Perfect Dark, teasing you to think again if you reckon you know it all. The regulars include news, coming soon, and leagues, with roadsters getting a shout out in the news. Looks like they're promising to weed out any bad N64 games for you in the reviews section, which is fair enough. A solid issue from the look of it. This gaming magazine page is packed with news. Donkey Kong 64, a unique platformer with sub-genres like racing and shooting, is highly praised, boasting stunning graphics. Updates are confirmed for Roadsters, Zelda, Rally Masters, and EPGA Golf. Jet Force Gemini, despite some prior hype overshadowing it, is praised as an original and solid blaster game, with unique character designs and subgames. Perfect Dark, a highly anticipated title, is delayed until April 2000 but is still lauded as the best game the reviewer has ever played. UK Game Charts, Game Boy Color Charts, and N64 Pro's Most Wanted lists are also featured, along with a chance to win a voucher by predicting the next month's chart. The next page dives straight into Roadsters, a racer that was mentioned last issue as getting some updates. They're calling it a sleeper hit, apparently shaping up to be one of the year's best. The preview here sounds pretty keen on it, comparing it to the classic Outrun, but bringing the concept screeching into the millennium with all sorts of dynamic weather effects and realistic handling. The main draw seems to be this trophy mode where you can actually bet your winnings to progress. There's also a quick race, multiplayer for up to 4 players, nice, Gromsa, and a time trial to hone your skills. They seem particularly impressed with the visuals and effects. Off to the side there are little highlights for the N64 Pro review section, mentioning a look at WWF Attitude on page 46. Always good for a bit of virtual wrestling. And the cheat zone is flagged up for page 66, promising codes for Mario Golf and Quake 2. Look, finally, there's a massive win section giving away a DVD player. Remember those beauties? Brand new tech back then? Looks like someone named Mark Hudson from Strood, Kent, aged 13, is trying his luck, answering the classic question about what you put in one. A disc, of course. Good on ya, Mark. Hope you win it. This page jumps straight into some huge news. The Legend of Zelda, the continuing saga. Nintendo announced this bad boy at Space World, and it sounds like Link's not getting a break after saving Hyrule. This sequel uses the 4MB expansion pack, which means the graphics are noticeably better apparently, with more detail everywhere. The plot sounds utterly bonkers. Epona gets nicked by a mysterious guy in a mask, and Link ends up in some alternative Hyrule that looks familiar, but isn't quite right. The big gimmick here is masks that let Link transform into things like a Goron, a Zora, and even a Deku Scrub. Each transformation gives him loads of new abilities, like rolling at warp speed or swimming like a fish. The whole thing seems tied to a city with a clock ticking down, suggesting some sort of time-based shenanigan. It's called a completely new adventure, even if Link and the gang are the same old faces. Nintendo's definitely doing something different here, typical of their inventiveness. Look out for it next year. Off to the side, we get a glimpse of Rally Masters, a racer fresh off the ECTS show floor that looks pretty tasty according to the blurb, promising stunning visuals. And then there's EPGA Golf, aiming to be a more serious simulation than other golf games around at the time, with some lush-looking courses apparently rendered in stunning detail. Seems like a proper challenge for virtual golfers, due out in February. This page jumps straight into some huge news with Blueprint, deep cover. It's all about Gex 3 on the N64. Seems Gex Gecko is back for another round with his arch nemesis Rez. The big hook here is Gex picking up a whole wardrobe of disguises, each giving him different powers to tackle the varied levels. They show screenshots of him kitted out for snowboarding and tackling some sort of fiery level. Looks like it's going to be a proper globe-trotting adventure with loads of variety. Apparently he's got over 25 costumes to mess about with. Next up is a competition offering a chance to win 5 Datal Equalizer cheat cartridges. These were the business back then, letting you unlock codes and mess around with your games. The question's a bit random, asking about a specific goal in a football final, which places us firmly in the late 90s, probably the 99 Champions League final given the date. If you fancied giving yourself an edge, this was the prize for you. Over on the right, it looks like the Rugrats gang are invading the N64 too, with a 3D interactive board game called Treasure Hunt, due in September 99. Features all your favorite ankle biters. This page hits us with the dreaded news right off the bat. Perfect Dark is delayed. Mark sounds suitably annoyed, suggesting Donkey Kong 64, another massive game, should keep everyone quiet until Easter. Oh, the pain. The main feature is the massive release schedule, showing off everything coming up for the N64 over the next few months and into the new millennium. It's packed with dates, developers and countries, listing all the goodies heading our way, like the Rugrats game we saw last page, arriving in September 99. Down the left, we've got a must-buys section highlighting a couple of essential purchases. Shadow Man looks suitably grim and spooky, promising a dark adventure, while WWF Attitude offers some classic head-bashing wrestling action. On the right, the forthcoming attractions focus on the racing genre, with Excite Bike and Jeremy McGrath for motorbike fans, and Top Gear Hyperbike and Road Rash 64, bringing more two-wheeled mayhem to the N64. Road Rash always was the best for a bit of mid-race fisticuffs. Finally, Bubbling Under gives us a peek at Zelda Gaiden, which would later become the legendary Majora's Mask. The write-up sounds incredibly excited about this new adventure, reusing Ocarina of Time's assets, but bringing a completely fresh story and gameplay ideas. Looks like Nintendo was cooking up another classic. The Software House League, a footy league for game publishers, is highlighted. Nintendo dominates the N64 Pro Premier League, while Acclaim and Electronic Arts lag behind. In Division 1, Human leads, but GT Interactive struggles with negative points. A Reader Dream Team features user-selected top games. The review process, using N64 Pro panel reviews to generate league points, is described. Screenshots of games like Mario Golf, World Driver Championship, and Quake 2 are included. This page previews the N64 Pro review section. Featured games include Shadowman, Rugrats, and Revolt, with a variety of other titles like J-League and WWF Attitude also getting the N64 Pro treatment. A review panel, Steve, Noelle, Mark, Lewis, Neres and James, offers initial impressions, noting some positive and negative reactions to specific games. The page details the scoring system, including the Sore Thumb Award, and explains the criteria used for evaluation, such as graphics, sound, and gameplay. Finally, it links to the Software House League. Readers are encouraged to turn the page for the full reviews. This page dives into the review of J-League Perfect Striker 2, and bloody hell, it sounds like Konami has delivered the goods again. The big talking point here is the brand new Success Mode, which is essentially a player simulation, where you create a chap and guide his career through the J-League. From the screenshots and the text, it looks like you're managing stats, picking training routines, and even dealing with the lad's lifestyle. Apparently too many beers and too much rumpy-pumpy can land him in hospital the day before a match. It sounds like brilliant fun, though reviewer Noelle notes that the language barrier makes understanding the deeper parts of the sim mode a bit of a challenge. Beyond the sim, Noelle confirms the core gameplay is still top-notch, calling it a definite improvement over ISS 98. There are screenshots showing various training exercises, player stats screens, and even a rather amusing translated dialogue box from the game. A Tip XTRA section gives sound advice. Maybe hold fire on importing this Japanese version for 50 quid and wait for the UK release of ISS Millennium, which will likely be more comprehensible and cheaper. It's clear Noelle is really excited about this one, despite the language quirks, positioning it as a serious contender for the best football game on the console. This page wraps up the review of J-League Perfect Striker 2, and blimey, it's landed a solid 88%. The big talking point from Noelle this time around is whether you should actually bother importing this Japanese version. According to the Why section, there's no doubt it's probably the best footy game on the N64 right now, but the impenetrable Japanese text, especially in that deep career mode we heard about last page, makes getting the most out of it a real chore unless you fancy learning the language. 50 quid is a fair whack for an import, especially when the UK version of ISS Millennium is just around the corner. The breakdown gives it decent scores across the board, 8/10 for graphics and gameplay apart from the career mode confusion naturally, and 7/10 for the sound, despite the slightly high-pitched crowd noises. Lustability gets 5/10 because frankly, most sane people will just wait for the English ISS Millennium, which sounds fair enough. The other views from the likes of Lewis, Mark and James confirm the sentiment. It's a great game, possibly the best footy on the console, but the language barrier is a painful hurdle. James Barber even chips in from Congleton confirming he's holding out for the UK release. So, the consensus, brilliant game engine, but importing is only for the brave and linguistically gifted. This page takes us into the shadowy depths with a review of Shadowman. The main image is pretty striking, showing the game's hero, Michel Leroy, merged with his demonic alter ego against a rather moody backdrop. The review explains you play as Michel Leroy in the living world and Shadowman in the terrifying dead side, battling against some seriously nasty villains called the Five. Noelle is on hand with a couple of characteristic observations, praising the game's lighting effects in a speech bubble, and delivering a dramatic quote that wouldn't be out of place in a sermon. The text highlights that while it might initially feel a bit like Tomb Raider, Shadowman is a much tougher, more confusing beast, perhaps proving a handful even for seasoned players, especially with its non-linear levels and the quest for a whopping 120 Dark Souls. There's even a cheeky quote from Mike Leroy taking a jab at Maze Croft, suggesting he's a far more agile hero. The gameplay blends puzzle solving with plenty of combat. You also get a look at the N64 controller mapping, and a quick tip about saving your ammo. This page delves deeper into Shadowman, highlighting its comic book origins and showcasing original artwork. The review praises the game's increasingly menacing world and emphasizes the importance of collecting Dark Souls, GADs, and voodoo items to enhance powers. While acknowledging some flaws, like a tricky targeting system and camera issues, the reviewer champions the game's difficulty, recommending it to hardcore players. Screenshots show expansive and visually impressive levels. A Tip XTRA advises saving after each Dark Soul collection to avoid losing progress. Finally, the page displays various voodoo weapons, emphasizing their unsettling and effective design. Shadowman receives a 92% score, earning 3 points in the Software House League. Praised for its sinister and engrossing story, featuring voodoo magic and serial killers, the game's scope rivals Zelda. Graphics and gameplay receive 9/10 scores, sound gets an 8/10, and replayability is rated a 9/10, significantly exceeding Metal Gear's. Key items include Teddy the Bear, Poignard wristlets, Cadeau pots, Dark Souls, and the Book of Shadows, along with the Violator razor gun. The game is massive, With over 70 hours of play, and numerous positive reviews highlight its dark and captivating nature, cementing its place as a top N64 adventure. This page is all about Fighting Force 64, and sadly it didn't fare too well, scraping by with a 65%. It seems the reviewer felt it was a bit of a letdown, especially after taking ages to come out. You've got a fearsome foursome of characters to pick from Alana, Ben, Hawk, and Mace, each with their own little description. The main complaint seems to be the gameplay itself, described as repetitive punch-kick action that makes you feel like you're stuck in a loop. The screenshots show the typical beat-em-up style in city environments. The reviewer, Mark, pretty much says to avoid it, calling it shallow and bland, demanding more for N64 owners compared to the PlayStation version. Looking at the breakdown, the scores weren't great. Graphics and sound were average at best, gameplay was repetitive, and longevity was poor, feeling more like an endurance test. The general consensus from other reviewers echoed the boredom and repetition. It seems this one just didn't hit the mark. This page is all about Madden 2000, the American football sim that asks if they're big-boned or just bay. Well, big. Apparently it's a Sore Thumb Award winner, which, looking at the controller diagram, seems fair enough given all the spins, handoffs and hurdles you'll be attempting. The review, penned by Lewis, delves into the glorious chows of the sport, hilariously described as escaped mental patients attacking full-body shaved gorillas. He touches on the sheer depth of the game, with stats, plays and options galore. So much so that even the tutorial leaves him completely baffled. It sounds like a game you can really get stuck into, but maybe one that requires a bit of homework first. The screenshots scattered about capture the action, from the wide TV camera view to close-ups of the players smashing into each other. The little captions accompanying the "run, your life depends on it" sequence perfectly sum up the panic and desperation of being on the field. You also get a humorous tip about using the creator play option to fox the opponent, illustrated by a rather worried-looking alien. Overall, it paints a picture of a deep, intense, and utterly bonkers recreation of American football. The next page dives deeper into Madden 2000, picking up where we left off with this deep, intense American football sim. It talks about the massive tackle, and how the game manages to make collisions feel solid, even if the visuals are a tad colorful, and the players slightly simplistic. Then we get into the strategy with, "I'm totally blitzed," explaining the glorious chows of sending everyone after the quarterback, and the mental gymnastics required to set up plays and formations. It sounds like there's a real brain to this game, not just brawn. The review reiterates that Madden is really real, focusing on the simulation aspect with actual stats and plays, contrasting it with more arcadey games. It seems this focus on detail means it can be a bit slow-paced but definitely gives you something to get stuck into. There's a funny section titled, "Laugh? I Nearly Died," with screenshots showing off the replay system. You can get right in amongst the action, perfect for witnessing those brutal hits and possibly hilarious physics fails. Finally, we get the lowdown on the tights. Camera. Hang on, reviewing the various camera options. Apparently, the traditional views are still the best, while the blimp view is useless, and the sidelines views aren't great for control. The zoomable view sounds promising though. There's also a tip XTRA, reminding you this game is all about strategy, so don't just punt every fourth down, you wuss. Learn to blitz properly. This page finishes off the Madden 2000 review, giving it a cracking 91%. Apparently the reviewer likes it because it's American football with the daft costumes and shouting, cool cheerleaders, and you get the whole sport, not just bits of it. The breakdown gives graphics a 10 out of 10 for making sense, sound gets 8/10 for the grunts and commentary, gameplay is a perfect 10 out of 10 if you don't hate the sport, and lastability is 8/10 until the next one arrives. There are other views from the magazine staff, generally praising it as the standard for gridiron games. Then there's a bit on creating your own plays, showing how you can get right into the nitty-gritty of formations and routes, definitely for the strategy fans. Taking up the other half of the page is an advert for the Equalizer cheat cartridge for N64, promising hundreds of cheats for a mere £19.99. Seems like a way to break all the rules, literally. The next page is all about Rugrats, Treasure Hunt for the N64. Now, if you were expecting a platformer like some other cartoon tines, think again. This one's chasing the title of the biggest, baddest board game, clearly taking a leaf out of Mario Party's book. It's a turn-based romp where you guide Tommy, Chucky, Phil or Lil across boards like the Temple of Gloom, trying to reach the end space. The reviewer sounds a little taken aback that it's a board game, mentioning the sound effects are more boop than Jungle Adventure. There's a handy tip, XTRA, stating this is strictly a game for playing with your mates, suggesting it's a bit of a lonely experience. Otherwise, wise advice indeed. The screenshots show the board layouts and the characters moving about, plus a section highlights the spinner mechanic, which seems to be a key part of the gameplay, though apparently not the only decider of fate. Looks like a solid little board game adaptation, perfect for couch co-op. The Rugrats Treasure Hunt board game, reviewed at 80%, is recommended for Rugrats and board game fans. Gameplay scores highly for ease of play and replayability, making it suitable for parties. Graphics are rated 7/10, while sound receives a lower 5/10. Reviewers are divided. Some praise its suitability for kids, while others dislike its corporate feel. At £50, it's priced like a console game, but is ultimately a board game adaptation. Consider playing Mario Party if not a fan of the Rugrats theme. This page is all about Revolt, that bonkers remote-controlled car racer. Blimey, you didn't want a proper RC car as a kid, eh? The headline sets the tone. Looking for a home for a psycho RC car. The main review, penned by Dan, waxes lyrical about the fantasy of tearing around your house or school corridors with a souped UP motor. It seems the game really taps into that childhood dream. You get a good look at the game with several screenshots showing off the racing action, complete with lap times and positions. Looks hectic. Dan mentions there are 13 tracks and loads of cars to unlock, all set in everyday locations like supermarkets and even a ship. The power-ups sound a laugh too. He highlights being able to drop oil slicks or send ball bearings bouncing around, or just proper letting rip with a missile or two. There's even a cheeky quote from a car claiming to be sleek, sexy, 12 inches long. Ooh, a misses. All in all, sounds like a proper bit of fun on wheels. This page dives deeper into Revolt. First up, there's a look at the rather basic track editor. It seems a bit clunky, but the reviewer reckons it adds weeks of fun, letting you build your own circuits of chows. Multiplayer is where the real magic happens, apparently, especially with the 4-player option. The review compares it to the classics like Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, calling them technically better, but Revolt sounds like it's got its own charm, particularly with the custom tracks and stunt arenas. The quote about just sodding the racing and flying off ramps sounds like my kind of fun. The breakdown gives it solid scores. Graphics 8/10, sound 7/10, a bit whiny apparently, gameplay 9/10, instantly playable, and lastability 8/10. So, good across the board really. There are snippets from other reviewers too, giving their take. Some loved it, some thought it was terrible. Oh, and if you like weapontastic racing, they suggest checking out Mario Kart 64 first, then coming back to Revolt. Sounds like a decent shout for some manic RC car action. This page is all about Tonic Trouble, a game that sounds utterly barking mad. Apparently, a powerful tonic has landed, turning everyday vegetables into angry snaggle-toothed monsters with massive teeth and eyes. Crikey, the page features some wild-looking character art, like a furious, giant carrot threatening a purple blobby chap. There are speech bubbles from them, one complaining about his neck and calling the other Carrot Top. The other promising appendages will be lost if you don't get past him. Classy stuff. Reza. We see snippets of gameplay in the screenshots, including a sequence showing a character transforming from a weedy blob to a super gorilla. Sounds eventful. The main text describes the protagonist, Ed, who apparently has to save the world despite having no legs, no arms, and only a tiny twig for protection. What an absolute unit. Neries from blgp.co.uk is the brave soul reviewing this. ETA. There's also a handy tip XTRA box giving advice on controller use for camera angles and movement, plus a specific tip for a downhill slalom section. Seems like a platformer with some bizarre twists. Definitely not your average gardening sim. This page continues the review of Tonic Trouble, kicking off by describing the graphics as boxy, bouncy, and bright enough to make your eyes squint and water. Apparently, Ed gets transported between areas via a rather unpleasant vortex transporter, landing in varied worlds including green fields, icy snows, and dangerous lava pits. The big news is the score, a solid 84%. The review reckons it's fun and amusing, with plenty of variety and good graphics, although the sound isn't anything to write home about. While lastability dips after completion, it apparently takes a good long while to get there, so settle in. The breakdown gives graphics an 8/10, sound a 5/10, gameplay an 8/10 for its varied elements, and lastability a 7/10. The game mixes simple brain teasers, platforming, be careful not to fall in the lava, fighting, and even high-speed challenges like sledging. shown with screenshots and tips below. Ed comes equipped with a bow tie, pea shooter, and a pogo stick, because why not? Corrigal. There are also quick thoughts from other folk who played it, and a suggestion to check out Banjo-Kazooie if you haven't. Sounds like a proper mixed bag of platforming antics. The next page is banging on about the new Tetris, the classic block dropper, making its way to the N64. Turns out, it's still ruddy addictive after all these years, apparently starting out like a star back on the old N64, like the PlayStation they cheekily add, and burning bright for the millennium. The core game is simple, yeah, but the strategies are deep, and the big new thing here is the 4-player deathmatch mode, which they reckon is a blast. It's all about building solid squares of blocks which change color and score you big points or dump nasty blocks on your opponents. Proper competitive stuff. The review gives it a cracking 83%, praising the clean graphics and absolutely raving about the sound, 9/10, calling it some of the best on the N64. Gameplay gets a perfect 10 out of 10, dubbed the most addictive game ever. Lastability is slightly lower at 7/10, suggesting old fans might get bored eventually, but honestly it's Tetris. It's always good for a quick go. There are screenshots showing the gameplay, a diagram of the N64 controller explaining the moves, and some tips like lining up 4 rows for megapoints. Other folk chipped in too, mostly agreeing it's ace, especially in multiplayer. If you've never played Tetris, they reckon you should get this version, calling it a worthy addition to any collection. This page is all about Michael Owen's World League Soccer 2000, making its debut on the N64. It's a review by James, who, being a Manchester United fan, is happy to have a little dig at the Liverpool star while reviewing his game. He reckons it's not just about pace, but a proper team and tactics game. You'll need to rely on your teammates, rather than trying to solo it all the time. It's apparently borrowed a few good ideas from the PlayStation versions, so it's not a complete write-off. You've got a handy diagram showing you which buttons do what on the N64 pad, covering everything from passing and shooting, to lobbing and tackling. There are various screenshots showing the gameplay and the menu screen, plus a cracking little sequence of images titled Suicide Drive, demonstrating how not to defend, culminating in a goal. There's even a tip XTRA from a green alien offering advice on scoring with a 1-2 and a header. Looks like a solid if perhaps not groundbreaking football sim for the system. This page finishes off the review of Michael Owen's World League Soccer 2000. So after all that tactical talk, the big reveal is an 82% score. According to James, this isn't your usual arcade blast. It's for the thinking player who appreciates strategy and building moves. Apparently you can pull off some cracking goals once you get the hang of it, which sounds promising. The breakdown gives it a solid 8/10 for graphics, a cracking 9/10 for sound, always important for atmosphere, but gameplay and lastability sit a bit lower at 7/10. There's a handy step-by-step guide on bending in a free kick, which looks pretty sweet, and a section on how to handle the defense. Plus, there's a tip on mastering the through ball and a look at the replay system, which sounds pretty comprehensive, even if the reviewer admits to pulling a fast one about pitch invaders. Finally, there are brief thoughts from other folk, including a reader, giving a mix of opinions, and a mention of FIFA 99 as an alternative for those who prefer a faster pace, though it's noted as less in-depth. Overall it seems like a decent football sim, perhaps not quite challenging the top dogs but definitely worth a look. This page is absolutely packed with adverts, showcasing a few places you could blow your pocket money back in the day. You've got Jam Over, a mail-order outfit hawking everything from N64 consoles and games like Mario Kart and Zelda to accessories, memory cards, and even cheat cartridges. Seems they had a decent range. Then there's Madeira Games, pushing imports and collectibles, even offering region-free DVD players, which was pretty cutting edge then. Ray, remember those premium rate phone lines for cheats? There's a big one here for Nintendo 64, promising cheats and tips for basically every game, with a couple of dodgy-looking cartoon characters. Further down, there's the infamous Shagtastic cushion, apparently medically proven to save your backside during long gaming sessions. Bit daft, but hey, whatever works. Korinchi. There's also a promo for the Pro Crew, which looks like some kind of fan club or merchandise range, telling you to flip to another page to find out more. Finally, Gadget Zone is here, specializing heavily in Game Boy Gear-like converters to play Japanese games and various cables and cases. Seems like the go-to for portable kit. It's all about flogging you something this month. This page dives headfirst into the world of virtual wrestling with a full-blown review of WWF Attitude. Front and center is the massive title, letting you know exactly what's on the slab. We've got some serious beefcakes on display here, with a muscled-up chap, looks like The Rock, and Triple H mid-taunt, plus gameplay shots showing off the action in the ring. The reviewer, Mark, gets his little cartoon cameo, alongside speech bubbles hinting at the pre-match banter. There's a handy breakdown of the N64 controller, showing you how to execute your moves. Slapping, slamming, grabbing with A, running/blocking with C, and kicking/stomping with B. It even proudly declares the game a Sore Thumb Award winner, which, let's be honest, was usually a good sign of a proper button masher back then. The text itself talks about the game's attitude, literally, giving a taste of the violent nonsense approach. Smack people in the face, kick them in the nuts, and twist their legs until they look like spaghetti. Delightful. There's also a tip XTRA offering advice, like pausing to check out the move list, and a classic warning against trying to do that in a two-player match. Bloody annoying indeed. The reviewer seems impressed that the wrestlers look and move like their real-life counterparts. Looks like it was a solid contender for the N64 wrestling crown. The next page continues our look at WWF Attitude. This one's got the big hitters on display, showcasing some of the 30+ wrestlers you can grapple with, including Mark Henry, Goldust, Bradshaw, Mankind, Stone Cold, and The Rock. You can see screenshots featuring the ring action, from basic grappling to powerful slams. The review dives deeper, talking about the frantic gameplay, the ability to have huge death matches, and even the rather unique girly slappers approach. Best avoided apparently, stick to the fancy moves. It touches on the famous foul language from the wrestlers, which absolutely nailed the atmosphere back then. They also hype up the Build a Beefcake Create a Wrestler mode, which sounds like it's packed with options to craft your perfect ring warrior. Crucially, it's got the big old score right at the top, a whopping 90%. The breakdown gives top marks for graphics and sound. Gotta love those realistic-ish wrestlers and the commentary. Gameplay gets a solid 8/10, noted as maybe not the easiest but deep and fun. And lastability scores a 9/10, thanks to all the modes and customization. It's clear the reviewer thought this was a cracking wrestling game, a real step up from Warzone. And look, there's Stone Cold asking about his deodorant classic. This page is all about the cheats, lads. Forget playing fair, this is the cheat zone where the secrets are out there. Up top we've got World Driver Championship, promising you can drive like a pro without, well, doing any work. It spills the beans on how to unlock all the cars, including the rather fetching pink Porsche, and how to get your mitts on the 00 Falcon Interceptor. There are tricks for braking, getting different tracks, and even messing with the speedometer. Just look at those racing screenshots. The little green alien mascot is here too, looking smug. Draking. Further down, it's time for some strategy with Command and Conquer. This section is all about sneaky tactics, because who needs honorable combat when you can just cheat? It details tricks like using APCS offensively, zooming the camera, getting some economic advantages, like saving cash on power plants and orcas, making units without the sidebar, and even messing with nod-attack helicopters. The sandbag tricks sound particularly devious, trapping enemy units or building where you shouldn't. You can even sell your own men or nick enemy harvesters. Our green mate pops up again down the bottom, letting slip that there are cheats for Quake 2 and Mario Golf tucked away elsewhere this month. And if you're still stuck after reading all this, there's a premium rate phone line to call for more cheat goodness. Looks like there's plenty to get stuck into. This page contains cheats for various games. Shadowgate cheats cover puzzles, bosses, and cryptic questions. Mario Golf cheats unlock all clubs, characters, courses, and gameplay options like unlimited power shots and fireballs. Character outfits are also customizable. Quake 2 cheats include bonus modes, multiplayer tweaks, like low gravity and infinite ammo, and password skips. The page also promotes the Tipax helpline and premium phone line for more cheat codes. This page dives headfirst into the Pro Arena high scores. It starts with a friendly warning, or maybe a challenge, that if you think you're good at GoldenEye, you'd better be ready for some serious competition on these leaderboards. Then it gets straight into the thick of it, showing off the top times for GoldenEye 007 across all the levels. There are some seriously quick runs in there. Following that, we've got the best scores and times for 1080 snowboarding, highlighting mastery of the slopes and events, with a couple of the leading players even featured with photos. Moving on, The Legend of Zelda. Ocarina of Time showcases records for the minigames, horse race, archery, marathon, and fishing. Some proper dedicated players pushing the limits on those. Below that is Diddy Kong Racing, displaying track times for a massive list of courses, showing who's the fastest around the circuits. We also see rapid times for F1 WGP, with the quickest laps and circuit records, and the incredibly fast track times for Wipeout 64, where one player seems to be miles ahead of the pack. The high-speed thrills continue with F-Zero X, listing dozens of blistering times across its many difficult tracks. Finally, the page celebrates this month's arena champ, James Dyson, who earned his place in the pro crew by dominating in Mario Party. A proper gaming champion this month. High score listings for Banjo-Kazooie, Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, Mario Party and Mario Kart 64 are presented, highlighting players like Richard Dunn, Kevin Sini and James Dyson. Instructions for submitting scores to potentially be featured in the magazine and win a game cartridge are included. A large advertisement from Gameplay, a mail-order retailer, promotes N64 consoles, games, accessories, hint books, cheat cartridges, and even used games at low prices. The ad also features Atari Jaguar games. This page is where the N64 community connects. Welcome to the swap shop and shout out, a lovely little corner for readers to offload their old games, haggle for new ones, or just send out messages to fellow N64 enthusiasts. In the swap shop, you've got folks looking to trade everything from Banjo-Kazooie and Mario Kart to Zelda, GoldenEye, and even South Park. Clearly, there's a vibrant second-hand market going on. People are swapping, selling, and hunting down those elusive titles. The wanted list highlights hot games like Star Wars Racer and Rogue Squadron, while the not wanted section humorously calls out Vrally, 99, and GoldenEye. Seriously, GoldenEye? What were they thinking? Over in the shout-out section, readers are looking for pen pals, debating the merits of Star Wars movies versus the Rugrats, a timeless debate I'm sure, and generally just having a good natter about their N64 experiences. You've even got shout-outs to specific games like Super Mario and Bomberman Hero. It's a classic slice of late 90s gaming culture, showing kids just wanting to chat and play games. Looks like a couple of South Park characters even make an appearance in the artwork. Good times. This page is all about joining the Pro Crew, which sounds like exactly what it is, a crew of N64 Pro fans. Bit odd seeing Tommy and Chucky from the Rugrats pop up to tell you about it, but hey, treasure hunts and non-64 makes sense. Apparently you get a bunch of cool stuff plonked through your letterbox every month. We're talking a funky fanzine, some exclusive cheats, always handy, members-only competitions, insider info on upcoming 64 games, that's the real gold, and you even get the magazine itself at a decent discount. And wait, there's more! If you sign up, you get an exclusive, limited edition Pro Crew t-shirt thrown in for free. Can't argue with that, especially for the total price of £28. Bargain, really, considering how much the magazines cost normally. They give you a few ways to join, check, card, all that standard stuff. Oh, and listen up, if you join using direct debit, you get entered into a monthly draw to win a fancy G64 steering wheel with rumble and pedals, worth 50 quid. Not bad, eh? Definitely worth filling out that form for a chance at that. Plus all the Pro Crew goodies. Right, where's my pen? This page is the glorious mailbag section, you reckon, where the readers get to spill their guts about the N64 world. It's all about sorting through the gaming grumbles, questions, and random requests that the mighty Steve couldn't handle. Because, apparently, he's off on holiday, the slack monkey. So, it's down to the rest of the crew to answer the burning questions. We've got Pikachu down in the corner, looking all confused about where he can use his N64, next to some chap asking about importing Pokemon Blue and why everyone reckons it isn't out. There's a rather fetching picture of a woman next to a quote about things being like, sick demented puppies, whatever that's about, and Donkey Kong looking smug next to the title, offering a banana. The main event is the letter of the month about cheating in high scores, specifically for Mario Kart 64. A bloke asks if getting insane lap times by exploiting glitches should count. The magazine crew firmly states, no to cheaters, yes to feats of incredible timing and accuracy, which is absolutely the right stance. Another letter questions the Dreamcast controller, calling it a rip-off, and asks for pictures of Heather Graham. Quite the range of topics. And someone else is asking about World Driver Championship, and the perennial quest to join the Pro Crew. It's a proper mix of complaints, questions, and general N64 chat. Good stuff. The next page finishes off the You Reckon? Mailbag, with some chap going on about the N64 versus the Dreamcast, alongside a nice shot of Duke Nukem 64. Apparently he thinks the N64 is superior, which, let's be honest, is a brave take back then. Then we hit the Reader's Gallery, which is always a laugh. The kids have been busy drawing, with cracking pictures of Link and Zelda, Darth Maul looking suave in a tux, the Rugrats gang, a stack of Pokemon, the ever-so-limby Rayman, and some other weird and wonderful creations. Good to see the creative juices flowing. Over on the right is the back issues section. If you missed out on previous issues, This is your chance to snag them for a princely sum of £4 each. You can pick up issues covering everything from Forsaken and Zelda to Banjo-Kazooie and F-Zero X. They've got issues packed with reviews and guides for all the big hitters like GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, and even South Park. Looks like they threw in a free guide or book with most of them too. Just fill out the form, bung in your cash or card details if you're fancy, and hope they haven't all sold out, you slowpokes. This page is a full advert for Computer Exchange, announcing their website sex.co.uk is going live in October 99 and pushing the Dreamcast launch at £149.99 with options to trade in your old gear. Game Boy Color is experiencing a surge in popularity, boasting a diverse lineup of games. Reviews highlight Space Station, Silicon Valley, N64 quality, Three Lions, top-down soccer somewhat limited, Battleships, link cable multiplayer, Madden NFL 2000, impressive graphics for a handheld, and Ants, platformer based on the film. Previews reveal upcoming titles like Oddworld 2, Dragon Warrior Monsters, Looney Tunes, Carmageddon, and Worms. The biggest news is the announcement of the 32-bit Game Boy Advanced, GBA, featuring enhanced graphics, longer battery life, and potential online play and mobile connectivity, while backward compatible with existing Game Boy cartridges. This Nintendo Park Buyer's Guide features a walkthrough of top games. Parky's top 5 includes Zelda, ISS-98, GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, and World Driver. The shooting section highlights GoldenEye 007, 96%, and Turok 2, 94%, as standouts. Other games like Body Harvest and Vigilante 8 are praised, while some, like Doom 64 and Robotron 64, received less enthusiastic reviews. The guide offers a critical overview of various titles. The next page gets into the essential kit and some serious racing action. First up, the Rumble Packs, an absolute game changer, mate. They really do add to the immersion, making your pad shake and rattle. The guide gives you a few options here, including the official Nintendo one, which is decent, but they also highlight some third-party ones that offer different features or value. Definitely vital for finding those secrets in Zelda, as they correctly point out. Then we dive headfirst into the racing section. Loads of cracking titles here, and you can see why World Driver Champion and F1 Grand Prix got such high scores. Mario Kart 64 is, of course, a legend, absolutely essential for multiplayer madness. They cover everything from futuristic races like F-Zero X and Wipeout to rally games, and even Micro Machines 64. Good to see the variety on offer, and the scores show there's plenty of quality here. Dorasuit. Finally, for the real patrol heads, we have the steering wheels. If you want the ultimate experience for these racing titles, getting off the D-pad and onto a wheel is the way to go. There are a few different options listed, from the Top Gear Logic Beast with pedals to some more budget-friendly alternatives. Depends how serious you are, but they definitely look the part. This page dives straight into the essential kit, the joypads. It's rightly pointed out that the pad is the most important link to your N64, and you'll definitely need extras for your mates. The official Nintendo pad gets top marks, naturally, calling it precise and reliable. Others get a look in, like the Manta Ray, which is apparently chunky and comfy, or the Macapad, which looks ugly and works badly. Oh dear. It's always worth checking out the alternatives, but sometimes you just can't beat the original. Mecha. Then we move on to the games themselves, covering various genres under the fighting and puzzle banners, plus a few others chucked in at the start. You've got some serious brawlers like Smash Brothers getting high praise for its multiplayer fun, and Biofreaks, which sounds delightfully messy with opponents getting covered in red stuff. Lower down, some fighting games clearly didn't quite hit the mark. For puzzlers, Space Station sounds wonderfully weird with hovering sheep and rocket mice, while Buster Move makes a strong appearance with several entries and high scores, proving those bubble-popping games are addictive. There's a real mix here, showing the N64 had more than just platformers and racers. Keep an eye out for the little ant character popping in to say "coming through," and the friendly, or slightly creepy, chef saying, "Hello children," a fun page showing the variety on offer. The next page dives into the essential extras for your N64, starting with memory packs, crucial for saving your progress in many games. There are a few options beyond the official one, including Gamester and Spook packs, offering different capacities and prices. Then we hit the platform section, featuring absolute crackers like Banjo-Kazooie and the timeless Super Mario 64, both getting rave reviews. You've also got unique titles like Chameleon Twist and the quirky Yoshi's Story, alongside Bomberman and some movie tie-ins. It looks like Donkey Kong is having a bit of a moment, shouting at Kenny from South Park. Lu Kawata. The sports section is packed with options for every fan. Top football games like ISS 98 and FIFA 99 are here, plus American sports like ASB Baseball, NFL Blitz, and Madden. Don't forget wrestling with WWF Warzone, various tennis games, NHL, and even Winter Olympics and Mario Golf. Plenty of variety to keep you busy. Finally, other stuff covers useful accessories. Expansion packs from both Nintendo and Joytech boost your console's RAM for improved graphics. There's also the Action Replay for cheating fun and a nod to the Game Boy Color handheld. All the bits and bobs to complete your setup. This page continues the buyer's guide, diving headfirst into the adventure and other stuff sections. First up, a massive 98% for Zelda 64, rightly so. Best game ever made, it says, and it's not wrong. Mission Impossible gets 92%, sounds like a decent straightforward adventure. Castlevania scores 88%, a short-lived platform adventure, but apparently still amazing fun. Mystical Ninja and Superman are also here, getting decent scores, though Superman sounds a bit dull. Over in other stuff, you've got classics like Pilot Wings, 64, 91%, Pokemon Snap, a new entry at 91%, what do you mean it's not out yet? Get it anyway. And the ever-explosive Blast Core at 84%. There's also Command & Conquer, another new entry, and Air Borders. Wile Golf gets slated for being sloppy, and poor FIFA 64 is called Lifeless and Crippled by ISS 64, down at a meager 34%. On the left you've got that guy just chilling in the park, looking rather cool and telling you to chill out in the park, man. Below the main list you've got Parky's top 5 guides. Looks like essential reading for games like Turok 2, Castlevania 64, Nintendo Secrets, Zelda Zen and Pokemon, along with a guide for WCW/NWO Revenge. Essential stuff if you wanted to master these crackers back in the day. The next page carries on the buyer's guide theme, but this time it's all about the magnificent Game Boy Color. It's stuffed wall-to-wall with game reviews, 24 of them in total, covering everything from absolute crackers like Zelda and Super Mario Deluxe, to some less brilliant efforts like WWF Attitude and Hexite, which apparently you should just ignore and buy Tetris DX instead. Tetris DX, R-Type DX, and Super Breakout get big thumbs up for being addictive classics, while Harvest Moon sounds like a relaxing farming sim. There's even a Game & Watch Gallery remake, though the reviewer wasn't too kind about it. Over on the right we've got the Game Boy Goodies section showing off all the essential kit you needed back then. We're talking protectors, travel bags, magnifiers, and the vital power pack to ditch those batteries. There's even a bum bag for the fashion-conscious gamer. War? And look, Parky's back. He's ditched the park bench for a full-blown safari big game hunt. He's set up a quiz with 12 questions based on the games listed on this page. You've got to find the answer in the game descriptions, take the first letter of each one, and spell out a mysterious prize. He's even put a note saying guessing gets you nothing. Woo! Sounds like a bit of fun, doesn't it? This page gives us a sneak peek at what's coming up next month. Looks like Roadsters is the big cover story, getting a world-exclusive review no less. They seem pretty excited about it, comparing it to Gran Turismo, but for the N64 fancy that. We've also got previews for Perfect Dark. Sounded like the reviewers were losing their minds with excitement, or maybe that was just the vodka. A blueprint feature, and Shadow Man popping up in the cheat zone, which apparently might give you the willies, but don't worry, they've got a tip for that. The next issue, number 27, is due out on October 28th. Over on the right there's a massive feature for the Special Reserve Discount Club, basically offering membership to get deals on games and various freebies. It seems like they're selling a whole load of Nintendo 64 and Game Boy games and accessories, listing loads of titles and prices from their catalogue. There's also the usual list of who puts the magazine together,